Hey everyone, welcome to FF Squared, to our episode 3. We've got a guest, Nafis. We'll introduce him here, but today we'll be talking about each of our team's respective drafts. And then for the finance portion, we'll be talking about the effective tax rate and using taxes to your benefit. But before that, we got to play our disclaimer.
Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice, and we strongly recommend that you consult with a licensed financial advisor or professional before making any financial decisions based on the information provided in this podcast.
All right. So with Jesse and I today, we have Nafis who works with me, and he has some really good football background. Nafis, would you like to introduce yourself?
How you guys doing? I'm Nafis Nasir. I used to play. Well, I grew up playing football my whole entire life. I started at the age of 5 for the Mount Airy Bantams. I actually grew up playing with first round pick DJ Moore. I knew DJ since I was like 5 years old. I know his mom is Cookie. He was actually he used to play quarterback when we were younger. We used to play pound ball, 55 pounds, 65, 75. And I just remember my first time playing football. It was the last play of the game, 7 seconds left. We were down by 2. DJ took a kick back for a touchdown. We won the 55 championship versus King of Prussia. It was crazy. And I just growing up, I just had a real strong support system where it came from my coaches, my family, the people that was around me, my peers. I grew up with a lot of playing with a lot of NFL talent. My cousins went to the NFL, Jalen Strong. I grew up playing with the likes of DeAndre Swift, Olamide Zacchaeus, literally Craig Reynolds. There's a lot of real close friends that I have in the NFL. I went to Plymouth White Marsh University. I said Plymouth White Marsh University. Plymouth White Marsh High School. I played football. I played running back. I was all state my senior year. My sophomore year, I was all area. I only played strong safety, but I was a 3-year Letterman starter. Junior year, I was all area, all league running back and safety. My senior year, I moved to. I was running back, but I had to play quarterback because we didn't have a quarterback, and I rushed for 2,000 yards. And then I went to Westchester University, played running back there, and ever since I left school because I had a lot of family issues that came up, but I left school. I kept my connections with a lot of the people that I know, a lot of my coaches, and I'm just really intrigued about football. I would say I'm a student of the game. I love football. I know the ins and outs. I love stats, fantasy, playing Madden, everything. And I just love football so much. And it comes out. I know I talk to Pro a lot at work, and it comes out in spurts. I don't really talk a lot about it as much as I used to, but it comes out because my love for the game. But yeah, that's basically a summary of myself, the football, my background.
Yeah, so you say football plays a very big role in your life is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I learned a lot from football, and that's one thing. Being in football for so long is you pick up lessons. I always say losses aren't losses. It's an opportunity to learn. It's a lesson in every loss, and that's what my coaches taught me. That's what the game taught me. Certain things that happen within the game or outside of the game and life in general has taught me. So I definitely think football is just a big part of my entire story, and you know what I'm saying.
Very nice.
Yeah, as Nafi said, when we used to talk about football, and I've seen him interact with some other football players, and what he brings to the table is the knowledge of being, having played in state championships with some of the people that are in the NFL, which something I can't do because I've never played in the game. So he definitely brings that, and I've seen that in the conversation where he brings in that knowledge when we talk. So we're glad to have you on.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said to that point, like the football is just like it's so small. Like we all like went to these different camps. Like I remember going to the Nike Opening, like being around all these 4-star, 5-star athletes, like at the Jets facility. And then I went to another one in Washington D.C. where like Trayvon Diggs was there, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. A lot of Demathic kids like that's in the pros now, and then like other like college camps too. Like when you're getting recruited, it's like certain camps that you go through your junior year. It was went to camps like Wake Forest, UMass. I remember I went to UMass. Andy Isabella, he ran a 4.3 hand time twice back to back, and they offered him on the spot. So
Yep.
like it's like certain like things like that that like I just like we all like remember, and it's just like real cool, like
Yeah,
cool
it's
memories.
like growing up in football, like I did. I'm older. Like I graduated in 05 high school, but like you go to the camps and stuff, and you meet the pro players or the people who come pro, and you kind of get a different aspect. Because like you'll be playing with, so like we lost to Jake Locker when
Oh really?
the state championship. Yeah, like he just like we went to Liberty High School and he just absolutely dump trucked our whole team. Like he ran for like 250 yards. Like he was just a grown man among boys. So I remember one play he absolutely face planted my cousin. I was like, sorry, dude. Like this is like, yeah, you're just like, you know what? That's just a different level of talent. So it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting to
100%.
see. But yeah, it's I very much enjoy that aspect of like the game, talking to people who are involved and have that experience where they take it in a different way.
Yeah, I love that type of stuff. And like another story, like another funny thing about that, like I don't know if you guys know who Craig Reynolds is. He plays running back for the Lions. Like my junior year or my sophomore year, he was a junior. I was playing. He like it was like 3rd and 12. We were like, all right, we're getting off the field. They dumped it to him. He spent off two of our defenders, and I was just like, wait, what? Like, what just
Yeah.
happened? And he went to Kutztown, and that's like a rivalry to Westchester. So like we used to always play him and all that. And then he's in the league. It's just like wow, like like stuff like that. Just like those are my guys, like
Right. Yeah, because what's his name? Jonathan Stewart was like up north of us when he was playing back in the day in high school, and you just like watch him play. Like we saw his games, and I'm like, that is an NFL running back, like no doubt about it. And you see him on the field, you're like, yeah, like that's gonna translate. And then you're watching him, you're like, yep, that's the guy I played against. Like, cool, that's all right.
Grown man, yeah, 100%.
So with that, we're going to start with your team first, I believe.
Okay.
Nafis, and
Are we gonna talk about the draft?
yeah, we are.
Okay.
Why can't?
You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, could you
Yeah,
try pulling it up?
Yep, I'll pull it up.
Oh, there we
All
go.
So here are the Eagles, and Nafis, why don't you tell us about the Eagles and break down the draft and how it's gonna like impact your team?
Okay. Yeah. So the Eagles, I think had the best draft overall in terms of value, where we got our guys at, the picks that we got our guys at, the needs that we addressed, and the moves that we made outside of the draft that help complement the overall, grade of the draft, whatever you want to say, the overall haul of players that we bought in. As you can see, we went to the Super Bowl last year, and now we're retooling our offense, retooling our defense, retooling the trenches. We got in the first round at the 9th overall pick, probably the best over prospect in the draft, or top 2, top 3 in terms of overall talent. And Jalen Carter, Howie, he's a wizard. He knows how to navigate the draft. I feel as though he's the best GM in the league right now in terms of how to fill the draft out, how to use your picks, how to use your players to get either future picks, get players in need that can help for maybe 1 year, or even 2 to 3 years. As last year we got C.J. Gardner-Johnson for a 5th round pick. He helped. He led the league in interceptions and only playing 11 games. So we definitely followed our mold. We always want to replenish the trenches. Jalen Carter, he's going to be able to fit the role of Javon Hargrave, who went to the 49ers on a big deal.
Yep.
He leaves in free agency, but I know how he's hoping that we get a comp pick next year. with however much he produces in San Francisco, he definitely should be at least a 4th-round comp pick, or he could be even a 3rd, depending on his level of play. Then we addressed the running back position. We got cheap signing in Rashad Penny, who was highly productive last year before he got hurt. I remember my girlfriend, she actually had him in fantasy because she made a trade. She traded Mark Andrews, and I think it was just Mark Andrews. She got back Rashad Penny, DJ Moore, and uh, somebody else. Oh,
Mhm.
it was somebody else, but Dallas Goedert. So it was a 3-for-1 trade. So she got Dallas Goedert, Rashad Penny, DJ Moore. Rashad Penny obviously didn't work out since he got hurt, but the Dallas Goedert and the DJ Moore value the DJ Moore didn't play as good as he did the year prior, but it was certain weeks where we plugged him in, where we people had a bye week or it wasn't a good matchup where he actually performed. I remember we played him when he played Atlanta, and he had that like game tie and touchdown to send him into OT, and like that was like a big game for him. And then Dallas Goedert was pretty consistent. He did go on the IR for like 4 weeks, but he was a good piece to not too much of a downgrade from Mark Andrews. But get back to the Eagles. I like how our offense is going to look. Our offense is going to be, running back by committee, RPO, uh, read option type offense with the ability to stretch the field with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and we can dink and dunk down the field with possession receivers. The addition of Alameda, like I said, I know Alameda. He's a real strong physical receiver. He used to play running back, so he's somebody who's going to be able to get yards after the catch. He's somebody that's going to be able to be used in different packages. You can put him in the backfield. You can play games with the offense, and that's what you want to do in this with our system. You want to put people. You want to put DeAndre in the slot. You want to put Penny in the backfield. You want to put Alameda, motion across the field. So the defense can't really key in on one player. You got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside. You got, mismatches everywhere with Dallas Goedert in the middle. You just want to be able to create matchups. And I was going to bring that up when I was talking to you earlier, Prue, with the Ravens. I think the addition of Zay Flowers, it just allows you to just play chess or pre-snap. You can put A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins on one side of the field, and then boom, you got Dallas Goedert one-on-one on the opposite side of the field with DeAndre Swift being able to come out the backfield. He might be one-on-one with a safety or a linebacker or something like that. So I definitely think our offense is going to be, another high-scoring offense, being able to run with the ball. The only thing that we got to address is the right guard right now. I see you guys have Cam Jurgens plugged in there, which is like the talk of the town. We drafted Tyler Steen in the 3rd round, early 3rd round pick, and we had those back-to-back pick with Tyler Steen out of Alabama, and then Sidney Brown, DB out of Illinois.
Yep.
I think Lane, like one thing that I've seen with Lane is he likes to play with a bigger type of guard. He likes to play with a mauler. So we lost Isaac Seumalo, who was a steady cornerstone piece. He was one of those players that played on the Super Bowl team. He's been in Stoughton University for over a good 4 or 5 years. So he was somebody that you could rely on right next to Kelsey, right next to Lane, and he was pretty durable last year. So now we got to figure that out. I think that's why we drafted Steen, because we saw the upside that we might be able to put a 6'6" tackle and move him inside with help with 2 Hall of Famers right next to him. I think he has a real good chance to start next year if he, gets the proper help with the coaching and being able to transition the guard from tackle. But he played in the SEC, so he's playing against the best of the best every Saturday. So it's not like he won't be able to play at that high level, especially in the FC East. Is very physical up front in the trenches, offense and defense. Defensive lines, very physical. But Jurgens, he should be penciled in as a starter right now, and I say penciled because that could easily be erased just because of his size. That's it.
Yeah.
He's very agile. He's gonna, our offense is based on, we got Kelsey pulling, we got we had Sayamalu pulling, we got Lane pulling. We can run a lot of things, a lot of different variations. We like our old linemen agile. We like them to be able to move, get in space, so we can run those RPO types for those sweep plays. We ran a lot of read options, zone reads with like counter GT traps and all that. I remember we played against the Giants in the when we were at the Giants and we were home in the playoffs. We were running a lot of that counter GT with the read option with it, and then we were running a lot of that when we were playing the Cowboys at home, and we were putting Micah Parsons in a bind. We were just singling him out all game and just running different types of read options, pulling guards, all that, kicking them out. So yeah, I definitely like what we did in the draft. We got Nolan Smith at 30. That's a great value pick. I would have been fine with it getting him at 10, honestly. So like that's like the amazing. And then Keely Ringo, great value in the 4th round. Traded up to get him. And we flipped 2 7s for a 5th next year, I believe. We gave up a future 3rd, but like I said, we might get that back in the comp pick. I think Sidney Brown has a real good chance of playing. He reminds me a lot of Vontae Maddox, and he came from that Illinois secondary, who got Devin Witherspoon drafted 5th overall. Recently, they had Nate Hobbs go to the Raiders. He's a second round pick. So that is and they're known for playing man. And the Big Ten is not no slouch. They're probably the second best Power 5 conference, other than the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and yeah. So like, I definitely like our draft. We got Moro Jomo in the back end in the 7th round. It was like kind of similar to Mailata. He's only 21 years old. He start playing. I think he's from Nigeria. He start playing football at a really late age, like 16 or something like that. Good size. He's like a tweener. He can play inside the 3 techs, D tackles, and he can move outside. And he's quick and fast, strong. So overall, I really like our draft, and we got Tanner McKee, which is like good value with the quarterback. He can fight with Ian Book for that 3rd quarterback, or he can be a practice squad player. He's tall, big, 6'6", got a big arm, and we like quarterback factory. I think we probably see a lot of Nick Foles in him. That's probably why we drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, he's that prototypical passer from Stanford where he's not mobile at all. Like, that's not what he's gonna do, but he's gonna give you like at least good passing ability. So it'll be good for the practice squad.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then that was a great breakdown of the draft. Speaking of fantasy, I think you made a good point, right? How he does, fills the holes needed, and he doesn't sacrifice draft picks to go get free agents as well. I mean, he still got DeAndre Swift traded on top of the draft, which I think was a great move with Penny there already. And it's going to provide that 1-2 punch that they're looking for at the running back. I think from a fantasy point of view, the running back, it's going to be a little heartache week to week because one, you have Penny and Swift competing for volume, but then you also have Hurts snatching away touchdowns. But if they do, average close to 30 points a game again, it shouldn't be a matter. They'll be both good RB2s, high-end RB2s.
Yeah, it's funny because they're both super injury prone, and I know it's not really like a thing, but like they get injured all the time. So you have them, and then you can plug in Boston Scott when you need him too, and then you have Gainwell as well. So they have plenty of running backs where it honestly shouldn't matter. Like each week they can just roll those guys out and fill the needs that they need them to fill. So Swift will be interesting because him and Penny are like 2 of the most efficient backs in the league. It's just if they can stay healthy or not. And that offensive line is like one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. So it's just wheels up for that rushing attack.
Yeah, and I think that's like what would probably help them more is like that offensive line would probably keep them healthy. And like I had AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Miles Sanders last year in my fantasy team. Like and Goddard too, to be honest. So like I think AJ Brown and Devontae will still get majority of the catches, over 100 catches each, and then Swift I feel as though will probably have the most value because he's a pass catcher as well at the backfield. But you're right, it's going to be hard. Hurts with the quarterback sneak, he's going to be stealing touchdowns all year probably.
Yeah, he's going to be incredible once again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all agree that the Eagles definitely had one of the, if not the best draft for the NFL.
It's just it's hard to argue with what they did. It's just it all came together, great value, and then they just picked up some nice additions in Swift and whatnot. It's just like it's on top of the Super Bowl roster already. So I don't know how you could go wrong with that.
100%.
All right, let's talk about the Ravens.
Yes, sir.
Nice. So that's my team here. I think more so than the draft, what happened the morning of the draft has far more impact for Baltimore than anything else. With Lamar Jackson finally agreeing to a long-term contract, I think the stars finally aligned. Especially the Eagles helping out with the Hearts deal the week before. So I think that got the ball rolling quite a bit. And then they went out and got Zay Flowers in the first round to appease Jackson. I do have concerns with Flowers. Obviously, he played for Boston College, whose offense isn't known for a great system. But still, him being the primary weapon there, his peripheral stats, yards per route run and first downs per routes, are abysmal to say the least. And the closest comp was Jalen Rager, and the Eagles fans know how that turned out.
Regular.
So there is concern that they bypass Jordan Addison, who's a better route runner, and it's almost like a Justin Jefferson and Jalen Rager type scenario here where it could pan out that way. But I'm hoping that the Ravens know what they're doing. A lot of people are high on Flowers and the landing spot than I was. But with how Nafisa and I were talking earlier today, he doesn't need to be the primary target, right? He needs to be the chain mover with Andrews, and I think he can do that. And for the Ravens, I think the biggest stock that people are going to have is the new OC, Todd Monken. He's going to run the ball, but he's going to set up the pass using the run. And he proved that in Cleveland when he had Nick Chubb. And he had two 1,000-yard receivers in OBJ and Jarvis Landry. And he gets to reunite with OBJ. So I think more so than the draft, I think from a fantasy perspective is what we did in the offseason. We got rid of Greg Roman. Probably 2 years too late. On top of that, we got rid of our strengthening coach. I think our strengthening and personal training people were bad because, we've gone through injuries. 1 year we had no quarterbacks. The other year we had no running backs. And, when you play like that, it doesn't help. And the one person I'm really, really, really high on is J.K. Dobbins. I feel like he could be a top 6 running back this year. And people are overlooking his potential there.
Yeah, he was my number 1 running back coming out of that draft class. So I am all aboard the J.K. Dobbins train. But he had that massive injury. So last year was kind of a wash. He was getting back. Like you saw him, he still had that limp and he was just a little off. So he wasn't fully back to who he was. But getting back to Flowers, I think why they took him is because he could play every position for wide receiver, where he can be your X, even though he's small, where that's something Addison really can't do. So you have Bateman, who's coming off the Liz Frank injury, OBJ with his second ACL injury, right? So they have 2 guys that they can't 100% count on. So they're getting Flowers, and he can go anywhere where you need him to play. You need him to play inside, play outside, he can play flanker, he can do it all. And I think that was the main appeal, that they can mix and match him and move him all over the court. So that way he could play with Andrews and be a 1-2 punch. I kind of think that's how it's going to go for them.
Yeah. 100. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
No, yeah, what I was saying with Prue earlier when I was at work, I was telling him, I was like, I think he's going to open up Mark Andrews way more because he's going to be able to take attention out of the middle of the field if he's playing in a slot. And whoever's playing in a slot, whether it be OBJ, and Bateman's more of an outside receiver, but there's going to be way more space in the middle of the field for Mark Andrews to operate because you have to counter. You have to at least bracket him. Or if not, he's gonna show you why he's one of the top 2, top 3 tight ends in the league. 100%.
right? Because
Yep.
last year that a wide receiver core was rough outside of Bateman. So like you're bringing in, I mean, OBJ is still like he's older and he's hurt, but he's still good. And then you're bringing in a first round wide receiver on top of it, so you're at least opening you up for Andrews. So they're gonna take it away, and then he could just dominate like he always has been too.
Yeah, and Nafis makes a great point. Space, right?
Mhm.
Greg Roman is known for putting the same players in the same area, trying to use half the field as an open field for the quarterback to run to. But Monken is the opposite. He loves space. I don't think he's as creative as Mike McDaniels in Miami, but he's up there in utilizing his best players. So I'm
I mean,
semi interested. I think the Ravens passing will wow a lot of people.
yeah, I mean, you can go back a few years to Tampa Bay where Monken was like slinging the rock with Jameis. So, and he basically used the two weapons that he had. Like he's like Mike Evans, just go down the field, we'll chuck it. We got Godwin as well, and you saw how that worked out for fantasy. I mean, there was like a 30 interception season, but it was great for fantasy. So he will definitely utilize the talent like and put it in the best position to win. So I'm very high on the Ravens offense this year.
Nice.
And then I think Lamar said he wanted to throw for 6,000 yards this year.
I saw that.
Yeah.
You dream big, right? It's like, hey.
One of the things that Ravens fans were so upset about last year was Greg Roman and John Harbaugh would wait until the last seconds to call in the play because they wanted to utilize as much of the play clock. I hope John Harbaugh doesn't do that to Todd Monken. John Harbaugh, he likes to set like how he wants the team and how the offense to run. I hope one of them is not killing the play clock because that was detrimental.
That's like Rodgers. They run such a slow pace. It's like, dude, just go. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
That drives me crazy when teams do that.
All right. I think one of the better teams to have a draft was the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they had some head scratchers, but overall, I think they had a solid draft.
Yeah. So we'll switch to the Seahawks. And finally, we have a third wide receiver. Like, we don't have D freaking Eskridge anymore. And let me tell you what. Because, like, for years, they've been trying to utilize the tight end as a pass catcher. And I don't understand why we're prioritizing this when it's like a square peg in a round hole. The way they go about it doesn't make sense. Where they drafted D. Eskridge in the second round. They wanted him to use it. And pretty quickly, it was like, yeah, this guy is not very good. So where do we go from there? And then they bring in Noah Fant. And then they don't really use Noah Fant. And he's a pass catching weapon. But then they had Will Dissly playing more snaps. And he's not. So it's just this weird situation. So they finally were like, you know what? Let's just go get the best wide receiver and we'll make it work. And so you're finally switching. And they were like tops in the league in 11 personnel last year, which is kind of surprising when you think about it, which is basically you're running 3 wide receivers at all times. But we're going to be, if not tops, we'll be like really up there because you want to get JSN on the field. You want to get DK and you want Tyler Lockett on the field because they're like your 3 best playmakers. And with Charbonnet coming in, it just basically gives the Seahawks another weapon in the game. And I know everyone says it's kind of like redundant, but it's not because Charbonnet can do screens. He's a good like third down receiver. Not like he's not as good as say McIntosh who they got in the 7th round, but he can play that role where we saw Walker. That's not really his game. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of use these two, but it's just another weapon. So they got JSN, they got Charbonnet, and it's just going to help out Geno Smith another year. So I'm all aboard the offense. The draft was a little interesting just because of where they took Charbonnet, and then they took Derek Hall out of Auburn, who, if you looked at the reports, they said the Auburn head coach, the defense line coach was like, he's the greatest leader we've ever had here. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, that's a Pete Carroll guy. No doubt about it. They love that type of atmosphere. So of course they got him in the second, and they kind of win. They add a little defense because we definitely needed some D-line. So that's where I was a little curious why we took Witherspoon. But when you hear them talking about how like the type of player he is and how dedicated he is to football, it makes perfect sense. Like that's a Pete Carroll like wet dream, like Devon Witherspoon, just the type of player he is and how he treats it. So they really went after like Seahawks guys in this draft. And then you went with Bradford, who's another interior lineman, which they needed, which was nice to see. Then they got Cameron Young, D tackle. So they They started hitting those needs, and then they did with more linemen where they got Mike Morris out of Michigan, which was a good one. And then they actually went back-to-back Michigan picks. They let Ula Latimi. I have a hard time with this guy's name. Like I can't get it right, but yeah, it's like, but they realized they had a big issue because they even admitted like we know D-line was our biggest issue. So by them passing and grabbing Witherspoon and then coming back and getting it, I was like, well done. Just more bodies in there, so we don't just get destroyed in the run game like they have been. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'm fully on board. I can't wait to see what happens this year to the offense. So it'll be tough to compete with San Francisco, but that'll be a little bit closer this year. So I'm all for that.
I mean, you had the quarterback upgrade on the San Francisco, a better quarterback, and now you got a better weapons as well. I think. One, I think the OC change is going to help. Shane Waldron is going to bring in, the Son McQuay, ISO, Vi triples concepts, and I think that's where JSN comes in really, really high, especially since his comp has been Justin Jefferson, and now you attach him to an offensive coordinator that can really use triple wide receivers. And then Charbonnet, I actually had him as a second running back in this class prior to the draft because he's purely reminds me of Nick Chubb, and I don't think it mattered where he landed to achieve Nick Chubb type of ceiling. But I have put Gibbs ahead of him now because Gibbs absolutely landed in the spot where he will smash.
Yeah, like that's perfect for him because they need a weapon. Like they have Amon-Ra and they don't have much else. Like so, it's perfect for Gibbs. Like you couldn't ask for anything better for him.
Exactly, and that's the only reason I got Gibbs ahead of Charbonnet. But don't sleep on Charbonnet. Seattle loves running to running backs, and I think moving forward, Charbonnet fills in that Rasad Penny, Chris Carson type role. So he's going to be a great RB2. And if I'm in best ball, I'm definitely targeting Walker and Charbonnet.
Yeah, I think best ball is better because you don't know how. There's three ways this backfield could go. It could be like Walker could get the lion's share of the carries and most of the work, or you can have basically a 50-50 split, and then it's just a nightmare. Or you have it's like Walker gets a little bit more. It's like 55-45. Then Charbonnet gets a little bit, and he gets a little bit of the pass work, but if you're starting those guys, like that's not what you want. So yeah, it kind of kills both guys in a way, but they will be at least playable. It's just I don't see a ceiling case for either one until this breaks out because honestly, we don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, if I know Shane Waldron, because he was my actual when he used to be the O-line coach at UMass. He was my recruiting coordinator. He came to my school twice. Yeah, I know Shane personally, and he loves his running backs, and I definitely comp Charbonnet to like a Chris Carson type, and I feel as though this whole offense is gonna be based on your O-line play because y'all have a real physical conference or Division II with the 49ers. Cardinals aren't that physical up front, but their defensive coordinator is real aggressive with blitzes. So especially from the second level with their linebackers, and then the Rams too, they got Aaron Donald still, so they're going to be physical.
He's a nightmare. Yeah, he's like the greatest player of all time. Yeah,
but I think you guys have the advantage at the quarterback position in y'all division. Y'all got Kyler coming off injury. Y'all got Brock Purdy hurt, and then Trey Lance is question mark. And then you got Matthew Stafford coming off injury as well. So I think this offense is early. I think they're going to be real hard to stop. Especially in like the first 8 weeks, it's going to be hard to stop Shane Waldron with pieces. He's going to put and I think Kenny McIntosh is going to be a sleeper too. I think you guys are going to run a horse, like a trio. K-Walk's probably going to be the lead back, but Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh are going to be very productive, especially with the little spurts that they get, because you're not going to know what it's going to be. It's going to be a pass. It's going to be a run. They're both capable of both things. Kenneth is probably the only one that's like more heavy run base, but both of those running backs are going to complement Geno well. Geno, he can. You saw that he could throw the ball down the field last year, but he's really a game manager, dink and dunk I call it Dink and Dak, down the field. And now he really has weapons to stretch, and create more space for these running backs to be able to work underneath, get one-on-one matchups. So I love the Seahawks draft. You guys drafted, like you said, Seahawks guys. Devin Witherspoon, that's a Pete Carroll pick right there. I thought Pete Carroll was going to go him or Jalen Carter. He was going to get somebody nasty. That's physical, is going to hit, stuff like that. So you guys definitely building that Legion of Boom culture back up. And I definitely am looking forward to seeing what you guys do in NFC East this year for sure.
Yeah, it'll just be if our line can hold up. Like, that's the only really question mark I have, just because we have guys like on the interior, like Lewis had kind of a down year. Hunt is a little undersized, so there's always that too. So it's with undersized. I mean, it's like a center; they can be a little bit undersized, but it's just gonna be interesting to see how they hold up. So if they can, like, we got the skill pieces to match up with like pretty much anybody. So I can't wait to see it, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're the left side of your line is definitely good. It's the right side. And Lucas, he's young, but like if he can play at a high level consistently, you guys would be straight, honestly.
Yeah, because then he can help out the guard, and then that's like ideal. Like, because we have Evan Brown and they have like Bradford behind him, so it'll be as long as one of those guys gives us like just solid play, then I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Nice. I think all three teams probably are in the top half of what they did in the draft, definitely. And with the Eagles and Seahawks probably in the top 5. But hey, Nafis, thanks for joining us. Your insight, I think you brought some really good tidbits and insight to some of the changes that the three teams went through. We love having you on board.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. This is actually really fun. Like, talk ball, fantasy too, because I haven't talked about fantasy in a while because I lost. I want to say, I think the game before the championship. So like I X'd it out of my mind. I'm like, fantasy, I'm done with it. But like, this is definitely getting me going. I'm probably gonna start texting my guys. What's the buy-in? All that.
Yep, that's how it is. Yeah, because like Prue and I play a lot of Dynasty, so it's like nonstop football for us talking for it.
Really?
But yeah, when you take some time off and then you get back into it, you're like, oh yeah, because I got a home league that just does redraft a lot, and like probably in like next month or two, they'll be like, hey, we getting this thing going, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm ready, let's go.
100%. Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah, go check out the league winners. It's a bunch of people like Jesse and I, and we play a lot of Dynasty. And once you get hooked on, in a minute you'll have 20 teams.
No, 100%. My friend, he actually does it. He traded Josh Allen for like all these future picks, and like he's like he loves it. So
yeah,
it makes you feel like a GM.
For sure.
For sure. On that note, actually, a GM is a business owner. So let's talk some taxes. But yeah, thanks for stepping in, Nafis. We loved having you on the show.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Bye.
This podcast is sponsored by The League Winners. Check them out at theleaguewinners.com.
All right, guys, we're on to our finance section. And today we're going to be talking about taxes, everyone's favorite subject.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse, could you pull up the presentation, please?
Absolutely. I got you.
Thank you. Yep, I can at least maneuver it.
We're good.
All right. So taxes, a little guide to help you. Everyone hates their taxes. When tax time comes, everyone's freaking out, filling out their taxes and whatnot. But
yes,
as a business owner, I love taxes. And I will tell you, if you stay till the end, why I love taxes. But before, let's get into what taxes are. Taxes are basically government revenue, right? That's how the government pretty much runs and is able to spend on projects. What most people don't know is 54% of taxes are paid by individual income people, right? So like myself, when I work a W-2 job, or like Jesse, when he works at the pizza place. And then that 30% is payroll. So you may be asking, what's that 30%? Well, employers need to also pitch in to their employees' taxes. And that's where that money's coming from, right? So It's pretty much the same type of taxes that you as individuals see on your W-2s. The business owner is paying a portion of that on top of what you're paying as well to the government. And then you see down there in the small corner, you got corporate income at 9%, which is something that's gaining traction in the policies, is to talk about how to properly tax corporate. I guess, Jesse, from this chart, what's the most eye-opening stat there?
Well, if you're gonna look at it like basically as a pie as we have it, it's the individual income, just the massive amount of it. But actually, the one that surprised me, which I had no idea, was the corporate income, the 9%. Like that one, I didn't even really realize until I saw that, and I go, "Oh, that one caught my attention pretty much too."
Yeah, I think everyone's will, right?
Mhm.
And the reason we'll get into is what's called effective tax rate, right? So effective tax rate is what you actually pay in taxes, or what you at least owed. So here's a quick example, right? I've got the 2023 tax brackets pulled up here, and I think the average person makes about 75K in America. It might be 70K, but we'll use 75. So when you use the formula, right, a lot of people look at this tax rate and they think that, oh, it's 12% right away. But you got to look at what your taxes owed are. Your taxes owed are not calculated as just a multiplication of a percentage. It's 12% up to a number, and then it's 2,200, and then after you go above a number, they apply a percentage. So you can see in the calculation that you end up paying 8,650, which equates to 11.4%. But the caveat there is, on your paycheck, they're taking 12%. And that's why you get a tax refund at the end, because you get all these credits and whatnot, and standard deductions and whatnot. And again, this number 8,650 is incorrect, because we're using your salary of 75K.
Yeah,
But exactly. You want to explain?
Well, no. So it's basically, you're talking about tax rates on the different percentage. So if we're looking at, if your income varies, right? Say if your income is 50, or if your income's 150, it's going to be a different amount of taxes that you paid, which makes sense.
Exactly. The other thing is, let's say you make 75K a year, you automatically get what's called a standard deduction of 25K. So technically, this number for a 75K actually applies to a person making 100,000, right? Because they get that deduction of 25,000 right away from the taxes. So a person making 100,000, it'll slightly change because the tax bracket changes, but that's so basically what the government is doing is you're giving them money on a loan for free. You're not charging them interest rate. And then at the end of the year, when you feel so good about getting your tax refund, it's because they're taking too much money away from you.
Yeah. So you're like, it feels like it's extra money, but it's realistically your money that they took away. So it's like, you're like, yeah, thank you for my money back.
Right. It's like, instead of taking a year loan out on it, they're getting it for free. Which is not a bad thing. So this is a very eye-opening chart that I found. As you can see, from the 1940s, there's been a split. I would say 1954. There's been a split on individual income taxes and corporate taxes, where they were closer together. And the reason there's been a split is, starting in 54, you started getting government policies that benefited corporate a lot more. The lobbying, the behind the door scenes policies, and Congress people are people, right? And as people, we have intrinsic value where we want to be greedy and selfish for our own good. So that's where the disconnect starts happening, is corporate being able to tune the policies to what they need. And that's how you get a 9% corporate income tax. So why are we bringing this up? One of the biggest things policy-wise they've done is called depreciation, right? A lot of people say, I want to open an LLC because I want to deduct my expenses, which is great. But the bonus is the depreciation, right? And you can see in the example, let's say after all your expenses are paid, you got a $500 profit at the end of year one. Mm-hmm. Now you can depreciate something and remove another $100 from it, and now your profit goes to $400. So now you're getting taxed at $400 instead of $500,
which is always nice.
Exactly. So depreciation is a very sneaky tool, and only businesses can use it.
So how do they go about using it?
Exactly. So once you open up an LLC, what is depreciation? Depreciation is basically over time, your asset is devaluing in money, right? You bought a truck to run your business. Your truck is getting wear and tear on it. Depreciation is to the government's way of you or a business making money on a deteriorating asset, right? They're saying, okay, go buy a business truck and we'll make sure that you'll get tax reduction benefits out of it. Can you maybe name another asset besides a vehicle?
So well, if so, I could turn this back to my pizza place. So for instance, if, we use certain items or whatever, like if it's obviously the oven's the most expensive thing we have, but if we did like a pizza table or things like that, we could use one of those or any type of other things that we would use for our business.
Exactly. So that's basically it. You have types of assets that the business buys, and there's normal wear and tear on it. And the number one asset is real estate. Real estate will give you the biggest tax depreciation ever. And on top of that, what the government did was introduce what's called a bonus depreciation. And we're not going to get into the whole definition of, how depreciation is calculated and how it takes 27 and a half years to depreciate the value of the asset. But essentially, depreciation is calculated so you're only taking a little bit of the purchase price of the asset and applying it to your profits as an expense. Bonus depreciation, what that does is now it allows you to move a bunch of that depreciation to year one, and now you're able to claim a bigger loss. Mm-hmm. And the benefit that has for individuals that do have a working job like Jesse and I, right? Let's say I'm paying $20,000 in taxes on my W-2 at the end of the year, right? I'm already getting standard deduction, but now I own a side business, and I am able to say, okay, I bought a truck, I bought this equipment, I bought construction, and all of a sudden, my $50,000 profit because of depreciation becomes $50,000 loss. That $50,000 loss, I get to claim on my personal individual tax. And now I'm saying to the government, I really didn't make the $150,000. I actually only made $100,000. And now you apply standard deduction of 25. I actually only made $75,000. So now my tax refund starts growing because I overpaid by a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's when you start hearing how business people don't pay as much taxes. It's because they use the power of expenses, but the power of depreciation more to their advantage.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. And why does this apply to fantasy? Is a lot of us fantasy content creators, we're putting out expenses, right? We're paying for StreamYard. We're doing research. We're doing work, but we're not using business expenses. So as a fantasy football content creator, go out there, create an LLC, and start using your LLC. Obviously, with anything that with the government, It's not like I just buy a truck and then I'm already afraid going to depreciate. The government can come back and say, did you really use that truck for business or personal use? Well, you need to keep records, right?
Yep.
You need to keep records of the assets you're using for, why you're using it. As long as you have records, the government's not going to be able to come after you. So I guess, Jesse, moving forward with this, something like, being able to use this depreciation tax seal tool, how eye-opening is it for you?
Well, if I can, so in my individual life, like if I'm able to use that, like you're talking about for content creation, where like I recently just bought this webcam, different other things where I'm able to, actually deduct that and basically call like a bonus depreciation and use that, then I'm absolutely all for that because it saves me more money in the long term. So I guess the better question is, why wouldn't I do that?
Right. And the one thing I'll say is like equipment and furniture that are, low in value won't give you that benefit because the depreciation is calculated over 27 and a half years.
Okay. So it's got to be like a big term investment, basically, is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's why people say real estate and vehicles. And a lot of people that drive really good vehicles, they're just using business vehicles.
Yeah.
One smart way of doing it is, buy a vehicle and put advertisement for your fantasy football content, right? Just put decal on it that you can remove at any time. And now you can say you're using the vehicle as an advertisement asset, and you can start reducing, you can start using the vehicle as depreciation, but you have to follow the rules. You have to create an LLC or a corporation. You have to you have to be able to withstand an IRS audit.
Yes, you have to put in the grunt work for it to work.
Exactly. And always contact your financial professional, like your accountant.
Yes.
So, but it's the tools out there. And it's there for you to use it. So taxes, yes, the government malpractices, policies to benefit corporates. But if you use the tax code right, you are able to make a lot of money. And I know for a fact that people that do rental properties and real estate, they be making, $500,000 in income, but be claiming $1 million in depreciation, bonus depreciation. And the government gives them a tax refund at that point.
That's good on them. That's using the tax code to work for you. So, hey, I'm all for that.
Exactly. And I'll put it in the description maybe later, but there is a previous tax auditor that helps people understand the tax code. Her name is the Moneynista is what her tag is, and I'll put it in the description later. But this is where I started learning about utilizing depreciation and creating, the paper trail. But I hope, moving forward, you start using the tax to your benefit.
Because a lot of people, it's hard to like grasp onto it and understand it fully. So if they're able to get a better understanding of it and then take that and use that to their own advantage, it's like that's a win for everybody.
Yep, definitely. And your accountant, most of the time, all they're wanting to do is prepare your tax return and charge you for it. But you can use them for far more than that, right? You can say, hey, you be my person that tracks all my expenses, and I'll pay you for it. On one, that's an expense from your business, and two, you'll benefit in situations like this where you're able to claim gas mileage, depreciation, all these different things. So, yep, that's the number one tip to become a business owner is you get not only to write off expenses, but you get the tax benefits such as depreciation. And that is where the richest people make the most money is the tax benefit. So
I can see that.
Yep. So I hope that helps you. I hope you guys go do your research. And we'll talk about this and dive into bonus depreciation and show you an example of how a real estate bonus depreciation works, how to, monitor it and all that. But I hope this helps you in your future finances. With that, like to say goodbye.
Take care.